So my experiences and other people's are different, and so that's why you end up with differing opinions, and, God bless. But, mine is that he's not going to stop there. So what my belief is, you got to hurt him enough, get him to the table, and call it good. And that good may look a lot like the way things were, and in 2022 when they started the invasion. And that's going to be unsatisfying to a lot of people, but at least you end the fucking conflict, right? And fine, that's where. But I think that's where this goes. The idea that, the only outright winner will be Putin if we back off and say we're not going to provide you with certain armaments, certain weapons to allow you to inflict enough pain to stop this. I mean, this look at the past couple of days. What's happened? So Hamas wasn't going to accept the ceasefire. Hamas has turned down opportunities for a ceasefire, right? They just and then they say, okay, the other day, 48 hours ago, whatever, they said we're going to walk away from the negotiating table. Fuck that, right? Knowing that Israel is ready to do some, limited operations in Rafah. So, because they're not stupid, they've got a very good intelligence network, right? I had to Google. I'm not gonna walk back all the way over there and say, look, I'm such an idiot. So I sat there and I Googled, how do you start a Tesla, right?
Right.
And I had to sit and watch this stupid video, and it was fine. And then I will say, I was very impressed. I loved it. It was a great experience. I'd never done that before.
Bizarre, right?
Yeah, right. And then is the White House, the Biden administration is pushing very hard on Zelensky to not attack any targets inside of Russia, right? The Ukrainian military is like, well, fuck it. Why aren't we attacking Russian oil refineries, right? And energy infrastructure like the Russians are doing inside Ukraine.
Yeah. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Get out of here with that fucking stupid thing.
But now you're right. Now he's a Nazi. And,
see, but the Tesla thing made sense to me. I'm like, okay, when you drive one of those things, you get both things. You get to feel like you're better because I'm out here doing something amazing for the environment. And then also you get a fucking time machine. That thing moves like a time machine.
Yeah.
It doesn't even seem real how fast those things are.
Did I tell you when I ended up with a Tesla? I don't know if I told you about that. When I show up at a rental car place, and I forget even what town I was in, and I hadn't asked for an EV. Yeah, and I think that if there's a change in government, fine, they do what they're going to do. I just think that, from an operational perspective, and this is just operational. I'm not talking about the moral, the ethics of the whole thing, of people dying, all this. I'm just saying from an operational perspective, leaving Hamas in place isn't going to create any even midterm.
Is it
nice party? It's a great party.
What a great party to host.
The canopies are delicious. It's a lovely time in the conversation. And so, it is. I'm just trying to paint the picture that it's more complicated than somebody sitting on a campus at UCLA might imagine.
Right.
And to your point, it deserves more debate. It deserves more intellectual, open conversation, right? Not necessarily when you talk about who's right and who's wrong. How about focus on how do we fucking solve the problem, right? And the problem is maybe intractable. If the problem's a two-state solution, then maybe this thing is just never going to work because maybe a two-state solution is the best idea, but if one side or the other is not going to accept it, and both sides have pushed back against it at various times, then what do you got? Where's it going?
The thing is, most people never get to hear this wide-ranging perspective like you just laid out with all the different factors.
Is this how you want to be known?
I'm so confused by that one.
Oh God,
I've tried to look into that one. I really have, and to my own embarrassment, I've looked into it.
Yeah.
My point is this person, this woman that he's married to, even. I
can't believe it.
Even if it's a man.
Yeah.
The real problem is they had a relationship when Macron was 15.
Yeah.
And she was 39. That by itself is wild.
Yeah.
Because if it was the opposite, if it was a 39-year-old man who was a teacher and a 15-year-old girl was a student, this would be horrific.
That could be NGOs, it could be media, independent media, and the Russians have used that foreign agent bill very successful. So Yeah, but my point is that it depends on your thought process. If you think that, no, okay, Putin takes Ukraine, who gives a fuck, right? And that's all. That's all that's going to happen. He's not going to try to reconstitute the former Soviet Union in some fashion by going after a couple other states, right? He wants a buffer zone with the West, which is what the Soviet Union was, right? He wants to rebuild that in some fashion. Not the same, right, but in some fashion.
Engaging in voter corruption.
So I don't have any insight or inside information about, to what degree there's a problem with mail-in ballots and voter fraud, but to me, I tend to be a little more simplistic. I remember a lot of elections where you just show up, you show your ID, you fill out the form, and then by that evening, you found out who won. Right? It didn't seem to be that complicated.
Right.
And nobody seemed really disenfranchised. Right. So I would like to see us just go back to the normal way of voting. Right. And
do we vote on it? Like,
yeah.
how do people decide whether or not mail-in ballots are appropriate? Because the reason why they were there in the first place was COVID.
Right.
But now that it's there and it's set up,
now
there's this resistance to get rid of mail-in ballots. But if that is the thing that keeps us closer to corruption, and it seems to be, that's the thing that's an element that you can fuck with.
Right. And you do this all the time in the business environment or whatever. You look at your protocols in place, you remove, lack of controls where, fraud could seep in. Right? It's a common thing. It shouldn't be difficult, but so then you have to look at it with some skepticism, right? Are you genuinely concerned that, somehow there were vast swaths of the population that were disenfranchised and not able to vote? Right? Or just can't get themselves an ID, right? Which I think is an insulting stance to take for a lot of people. But you're not. I'm sorry, you're not smart enough to get yourself an ID.
But you need one if you have a vaccine.
Yeah, but you need one if you have a vaccine,
if
or you need one.
Work.
Yeah, or from Sam's Club.
You want to feed yourself. You need one, but you don't need one to vote because that's racist.
So exactly.
Or something.
So I think to me, it just seems like we should look at it from a perspective of the way that you would do it if you were running a business, which is, I want to minimize the potential opportunities for fraud. And, Macron is over there saying, well, if Kyiv asks, I can see putting French troops on the ground in Ukraine.
Well, he's trying to distract from the fact that his wife's a man, right?
Yeah.
Bro,
I like that. No, it's